Welcome to Viva La Visionary, the podcast that celebrates the innovative ideas and mindsets of entrepreneurs and visionaries. Join your host, Coach Bob Shenefelt, as he dives into inspiring stories and practical insights from trailblazers who are changing the game. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or a seasoned leader, this show is your source for motivation and creativity. Let's embark on this exciting journey together.
Hi there, Coach Bob here. Excited to host another Viva La Visionary podcast. Very excited to have my good friend Elizabeth Goede here. Elizabeth, how are you?
I'm so great, Bob. How are you?
I'm good. I'm better now that we're together. So excited to have a little conversation. I like to start small and then we build up. So my first easy question is, why are you on this planet?
I love that you think that that's the easy question.
Right. And then wait till the other ones. Right.
So I guess the way that I think about it is that my red thread would be the fact that I like to make people's lives better.
Right.
And I mainly do that through the use of technology, which right now we would call artificial intelligence.
Right.
But at the end of the day, really, I like to be helpful to people.
Right. And you've been helpful to me and many other visionaries, so I appreciate that. And you have such a great way of asking questions and then following up, and again with a marketing bent and a simplicity bent. So I love your style and how you've helped me and many others. That's awesome. Cool. Oh, you're welcome. And when did you first realize you were a visionary?
You know, it was interesting when you sent me the invite for this podcast and you included some of these questions. I really actually have pondered that since I set up this time to meet with you. And I think once I actually understood what a visionary is, I think I could probably answer that question like very young.
Right.
I remember in fourth grade, my mom was in art school at the time. She had gone back to school. She had been a nurse to begin with and then went back to school. And I was sick one day and I went with her to school. And I remember learning this word abstract. And I decided, because I'm also a little bit of a procrastinator, I decided one morning that I was going to enter a cake competition that was that day. And so I got up super early and I went downstairs to the kitchen and I baked a cake.
Okay.
And because I was young and I didn't really understand exactly all the principles, and because I was being a procrastinator, I tried to ice the cake too fast. And so if you've ever tried to do that, what happens is the cake starts coming apart, right? It like picks up with the icing. So for me to save it, what I decided to do was put it in a bowl. And I called it an abstract cake. And I said, I see a butterfly. What do you see? Now, when I entered the cake competition, I was the only person I think that definitely did not use their parents to do it. But I ended up getting an honorable mention off of that. But that's where I think that the visionary really started to sort of like put itself forward, which was this idea of sort of like seeing opportunity, for lack of a better way to see it, in a different way than maybe others do.
Right. Love it. Abstract is a great word. And again, I love this podcast. We've got so many great words that are relevant, and abstract is another good one. I appreciate that. And I don't know, like I would say if I was in that contest, I wouldn't have read the directions. And when you mentioned procrastinating, I think that is fairly typical. I feel like a lot of us visionaries, we start quick, not bad, and we finish strong. In between, not always so great. So I appreciate that. So, and you've described some of it already, but how would you define, what are some of the roles and responsibilities? You know, we talk about the different seats in an organization. And so I know when I first was kind of learning about the term visionaries, when I started on my EOS journey 22 years ago or whatever it would have been. So it really helped me to say, because I didn't think I had a place in business. I'm not good at managing. I'm not good at numbers and details. And my very good friend, Gino Wickman, I was his third client. He was like, no, you have a place in business. And it's because it's a visionary, but then you need everything else. So, we list out roles and responsibilities, and a lot of people don't know what the roles and responsibilities of a visionary are, including ourselves. So how would you define that?
It's interesting. I worked with John Anderson, and that's actually how you and I got to know each other.
Love
and
that.
John was actually the first person that really sort of explained to me what a visionary was.
Right.
And then of course I read the book Traction and sort of, got a little bit deeper into that. So I guess a little bit of my frame of reference probably comes from the same
Sure.
space.
Right.
Now, when I think about like the role of where visionaries, where they play a really great role, because I would consider myself to have a lot of integrator in
Mhm.
me, and I think that's a little bit because when I graduated with a BFA, I was supposed to freelance, so it was sort of like for me to survive and feed myself, I had to figure out how to do some of the integration piece, or
Right.
otherwise I would be, have starved to death. Um, and so when I think about though the benefit of having visionaries, I don't think that from my perspective, this is my opinion, but I don't think that businesses can innovate without a visionary.
Right.
And so where visionaries keep the business going forward is there's always a new idea that's being brought to the table, and a new way of looking at things and a new way of doing things. And where the integrator helps sort of control that is, okay, like what are the things that are going in the parking lot and what are the things that we're really going to do right now? The
Right.
visionary's role is still going to continue to be coming up with all the ideas. It's a little bit like giving like a basket for the integrator to look at and
Right.
pick out. So I guess like if I were to summarize, I would say that I think that they help with the innovation piece.
No, I love that. And it's interesting because with a structure like what John teaches with scaling up and gazelles, and what EOS teaches, is that we are innovation, but then there is a lot of structure. And it's interesting, and not by design, but a lot of times people who are teaching some of those structures or within a company, it's like, oh, don't let the visionary, take us off track. So what that can do is, because I've done this in the past, where I would have ideas and people like, oh, there goes Bob again. He's being the visionary. He's chasing squirrels, and I take things too personally sometimes, or at least I used to. So then I stopped innovating. And so then they lost their visionary. So it's that art and that science of the balance of having the ideas and thoughts. And that's where we need to have the visionary and integrator, because then I can say anything to them. And they can say, that sounds great, but like you said, that's in the parking lot, or that's next year, or yeah, let's focus on that. So innovation. No, I love that. And when I'm in that space, I'm giving energy and getting energy. So yeah, I appreciate that. That's a great one. Cool. And then what's one thing you've learned over the years that really helped to catapult you as a visionary, either personally or professionally? I started doing this, I stopped doing that, or something that really kind of helped you in the role of the visionary.
Yeah, I think it's like allowing my visionary flag to fly. It's I think a lot of times, especially when we have some integrator in us, or we've been put in sort of that necessary place of being more of an integrator, and then we start to compartmentalize and we hide that, right?
Right.
Like we think, okay, I don't have time to be that. I think that becomes a little bit of like a dangerous place, because I think that part of what makes us light up and helps us to really be our whole self is to like allow all those ideas and that ability to sort of see into the future. I always say that I live like 5 to 10 years in the future. That's
Right.
just like where my brain is. And if I'm not allowed to live there, I'm not actually good at the other things.
Yep.
And frankly, also my team is happier also if I'm not also doing all the things,
Right.
because that gets a little tricky for them. So I think they're happier when I'm still allowing that the visionary side of me to take a step forward.
No, I love that. Yeah, for me, it's when I used to feel guilty when I left the office. And a lot of it was business, but it might have been hiking with a client or going to the game with a client. And I used to really kind of be nervous about that, because I'm like, they're at work working, and I'm off kind of playing. And they're like, you know what? We actually like it when you leave. Which then that was an issue. It was like, okay, well, then what am I supposed to do and be? And they said, no, go play, build relationships. And sure enough, I would come up with an idea or a thought and bring it back to them. But I think getting over the guilt is a lot for that, and to be yourself. Because a lot of times it's like, well, Elizabeth's successful, so I should be more like her. And that's fine to learn, but I need to be me. So like you said, let my freak flag fly. I love that. Very cool. So tell me a little bit. I mean, I know a lot about it, but like what is your business and what do you do for your clients?
Yeah, sure. So we talk about it. So we work on artificial intelligence, and we do that. We consult and we do training and education. We also build full systems, all the way from something small, all the way up to within the like defense industry. We'll build closed loop systems. But we have a very, very specific way that we look at things, which is we want to keep the humans. We just want to make their lives better.
Love it.
So if you are looking to replace your whole team, we're just not the right company to work with, because that's not our approach. If somebody's running, I had somebody contact me recently and sent me something and said, couldn't they just make agents to do this instead of hiring for this? And I said, they could. We're not going to be the ones that help them do that.
Right.
If they decide that they still want to hire someone, but they want to supplement them with, other agents and things like that, we're happy to do that. But we're not in the business of replacing people.
Oh, I love that. And what's your target market? Like demographic, geographic, psychographic?
Yeah. So we we work with small businesses, and typically those are more of our services that are less bespoke. And a lot of where we work is in the, I'm going to call it the highly regulated industries. So it's aerospace, defense, medical, healthcare, finance.
Okay.
So we can do those types of projects, which are a little bit different than sort of your run of the mill person that's out there.
Got it. Well, what you've done for me in my business is creating an AI app, which does a lot of what I do. But again, it's not that it's going to replace me, but I see that, where people can get a taste of it and they get value from it. And so if they spend a couple dollars, and the AI tool, which again, you took a lot of what I teach and the questions I ask and had AI turn it around in seconds. And that's amazing. And so to me, it is a great building of the funnel where people are going to come in and say, okay, fine. And if they don't want to go further, that's fine. But then I'm not wasting all my time on it. So I appreciate what you're doing. It's not going to replace me, but it can get people into the funnel. And if they want more, then yeah, hire me or hire one of my coaches or whatever. So I love it.
Yeah, it's Bob. First, thank you so much for bringing that up. I mean, it was a lot of fun to work with you and sort of bring your methodology to life in a different form.
Right.
I think that when you look at something like that, I look at it as more of allowing you to scale in a way that you wouldn't be able to do. So
Love
it's
it.
like, 1,000 people, can't have access to you at the same time. It's just
Right.
impossible. And so what that allows you to do is consistently be able to be present and allow people to get access to you in a way that also, frankly, will be a little bit more affordable for them as well. Once they get the taste, then we know that they're going to continue to work with you or your team. So this just allows you to be able to reach out and have people have an experience with you on a grander scale.
Oh, I love that. And about 15 years ago, and I'm not a technology person, as you know, and I didn't even know what AI was then, but I was like, okay, because when I ask people questions, I take notes and the keywords, and then I spin them around and I give them back to people, excuse me, and people are like, how did you come up with that? And I said, I pretty much took your words and then, where it kind of fit. And sure enough, we'd be at 70% of why they're on this planet, what are they great at and love, and how do they do it, their great gift. And so working with a family member, I've done some coaching, and it's tough to coach a family member. But when I used the app that you created, they basically, they were kind of in tears of what that brought to them. And so, I almost think it was more effective than but it was just clean. And again, that might be all that person not wants or needs. But then that really got him thinking about, okay, what does my life, what does a perfect life, not a perfect, but a great life that I love look like? And so it was in words, but then also she created, a little kind of a vision board around it, and it was very impactful. And so what took probably 30 minutes to complete it, but then got the response in seconds. Wow. So thank you for that. And again, you showed us at the Visionary Forum recently how you can take someone's processes and turn it around and again, put it up to scale. I know a lot of people were very intrigued by that. So that's awesome. So thank you for that. And then, so speaking of the Visionary Summit, you were one of our awesome presenters. and facilitators. What did you think of that experience of 48 hours with other wacky visionaries?
I think I might have mentioned this to you, but the Visionary Forum to me, I speak a lot. I think I will have had 20 speaking engagements between the 1st of September and the 1st of the year. So when I say I speak to a lot of groups, I do. And some are coincide with just individual meetings and some are with, full conferences. And I will say in the 48 hours that I spent with you, I didn't necessarily know what to expect when I got there. And yet when I left, I couldn't believe how I would have lived without having been there. It was I couldn't believe what a difference 48 hours made.
Right.
An incredible collection of people, an incredible, very relevant topics at hand. I think it was really nice to be with other leaders that are sort of struggling, with we all balance a lot as leaders, right? It's not just the work, it's also managing the people, and it's not just the people's work, it's also what's happening with the people in their lives, and then it's what's happening with us in our lives. And so what I loved about the Visionary Summit was it allowed us to sort of talk and connect on all of those different pieces and parts and levels. And, frankly, in a space that allows you to sort of show up in whatever way that you are at that moment, and allow all these different, it wasn't just the sessions too, it was sort of the connections that you made in the evenings, at breakfast or, whatnot. It was just additional conversations that came out of, you sort of get out of it what you put into it. But I feel like, again, I don't know how I made it this far without even knowing it existed.
Well, thank you. And you added a ton to that. But yeah, it's not a conference. It's kind of a retreat with, again, kind of big time visionaries who are, we're not just visionaries in business, we're visionaries in life. And so, yeah, we had a lot of things that came up with aging parents or kids or balance or health or whatever it might be. And again, to share with other people who, again, are very open and vulnerable and we're willing to be a mirror for each other. It's incredible. I'm honored to be a part of it. And we've got our next one set up for February. So very good. And so again, thank you for being there. And I appreciate those comments. So what's something that isn't necessarily keeping you up at night, but an opportunity you're working on or something that you're kind of wrestling with right now as a visionary, either personally or professionally?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like the age old, how do you find the balance with your team, and finding sort of that right leadership balance. So it's like, how does your business survive when you're not there in a way that you feel comfortable with? So it's not that your business can't survive without you, because for the most part it can, but it's sort of one of those, how do you personally allow yourself to disconnect to know that? I think that's I'm still wrestling with how I know that. First step is acknowledging you have a problem, right? But the second step is, how do you actually implement on that? So I would say that's my biggest.
No, that's a good one. I definitely get that. So I have one more question, but what do you have any other questions for me or other comments or other things that visionaries might benefit from?
Yeah. So the only thing I guess I would touch on, just as it relates to artificial intelligence, artificial intelligence is a visionary's dream. Not only from, sort of being able to bring you to life and help you scale, but just like visionaries, artificial intelligence doesn't really see walls of boxes. And so it allows you to sort of continue to innovate and bring some of your ideas, like to bring more of a picture to it. It allows you to sort of be able to take your ideas, put it in there and translate it into a way that maybe your integrator could understand it or your team can understand it. I would say that the world has never been more primed and ready for visionaries. And frankly, we are the ones who are really going to be able to sort of find this upward trajectory in our life and in business, because the technology is going to allow us to be able to do that.
Oh, I love that. And I'm just, as you know, dipping my toe in the water. But again, I've known it was coming, and I see how it can be so helpful as I ramble, and I've had two examples. One, I have a friend that I've known forever who's very great at marketing, and we were working on a project together, and we were speaking to someone, and I was rambling, and she was, "Hun, that 20 minutes of you rambling was 4 minutes of genius," and I think that's very typical. And then I went to my daughter's school, I think it was in fifth grade, and I was talking about some I Matter things and helping them to know and act like they matter. Very similar. It's like, Dad, yeah, that was good. You could have cut it from 20 minutes to 4. So to have someone, because again, a lot of times I'm rambling to hear myself think. So it is kind of therapy, but if I can have AI answer it and say, here's what I heard, it's helping me to, pose no, here's what I meant. So yeah, so I'm very excited about it, what it already is doing for me and what it can do. So I appreciate that. So how does someone get a hold of you and or your company if they want to learn more?
Sure. So the easiest way is to just go to my website, which is ratliffconsulting.com. That's RATLIFF, like Frank, consulting.com. Otherwise, I am available on all the social channels under my name, so you can find me that way. So that's the best way to reach out.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you for that. So my last question, as you, I think, know, our rally cry and the name of the podcast is Viva La Visionary. So what does Viva La Visionary mean to you?
Well, I think it means long live the visionary.
Woohoo! Long live the visionary. Yeah, no, I love that. Someone came up with that about a year ago. Excuse me. Because again, a lot of the systems, which I think are great, are kind of blaming us for things, and it's rightfully so, but often it's, so it is that art and that science. But again, like we said earlier, it's to get over the guilt, and then without us, what would really happen? And again, now with AI, how can it help us to communicate our vision clearly?
Yeah, I don't know. I think about like bashing visionaries. I think if we took all the visionaries in history out, we would have a very different looking life right now.
Yes.
And we just would not, we might still be on horseback at that degree. Like the amount that visionaries actually do is monumental. It's infinite. And, frankly, even if we took the visionaries out of artificial intelligence, we would end up with just robots working in factories.
Right. Interesting. Yeah.
It's really the visionaries are the ones that are going to take us to the next level and continue to sort of exponentially grow.
Right. Well, it's interesting, as we hit the ceiling of complexity, it takes, a revolution or revolutionary to bust through that. So again, and I love that. Now, sometimes I bust through things I don't need to, but so I'm learning to evolve and not always blow things up. But no, I love it. Yeah, without visionaries, life would be boring. I think we are the cause of and cure of all of life's problems.
Agree.
All right, Elizabeth, again, I thank you for your time, your wisdom, your friendship. I appreciate it. And we will see each other soon.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bob, for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. All right, have a great day.
Thank you for tuning in to Viva La Visionary. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and found inspiration in our guest stories. If you loved what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and share the podcast with fellow dreamers and doers. Join us next time as we continue to explore the limitless possibilities of visionary thinking. Until then, keep dreaming big and taking action. Your vision matters.